this is Abid. Welcome to the page of SM Sultan. It is nothing but a very short clarification video. There was an article which was published back in 2019, and the article is suggesting us that as far as SM Sultan is concerned, we all know that some of his works were exhibited in London back in early 50s with the great Pablo Picasso and Salvador Dali. So the article is suggesting us after 70 years of those exhibitions, because those were exhibited back in 1950 and it is 2019 when the article is suggesting us that those exhibitions were something like hoax. So they are claiming that it is possible that Sultan's works were not exhibited with the great Pablo Picasso and Salvador Dali. So they made a journey in some of the exhibition halls of great London, and they tried to find out whether Sultan's works were exhibited with the great Salvador Dali and the great Pablo Picasso or not. So they came up that no, there was not a single exhibition where SM Sultan's works were exhibited with the great Pablo Picasso and Salvador Dali. So it is basically the controversy. Now the question is, why after 70 years of those exhibitions? Yes, you have freedom, you can go and you can try to find out whether his works were exhibited with the great artists of that time or not. It is your freedom. But it is true that if you give a journey back 70 years, it is very difficult to find out all sorts of data that you are searching for. Now you can refute this claim in two ways. Let me just start with the very first one. If you have a look in the history, you will find there are so many writings about SM Sultan, there were so many interviews of SM Sultan, there were many books were written based on the life journey of SM Sultan when SM Sultan was alive, since we all know that he died back in 1994. There are some greatest works, there are some greatest research which have been done based on SM Sultan's work and based on SM Sultan's life back in 1970s, and when SM Sultan he was doing some of his exhibitions in some of the greatest places of Bangladesh, like the Shilpakala Academy, which is the center, which is the very center of portraying art and culture, at least in Bangladesh. So everybody started appreciating SM Sultan's works, and at that period of time many people were interested to write books on SM Sultan. Many people started doing some researches on SM Sultan's works and lives. So if you have a superficial look, or if you have a deeper look into the life journey of SM Sultan's life, which were written down or which were documented even in the greatest documentary ever made on SM Sultan's life by the late Tareq Masood sir, happens to be one of the greatest filmmakers of Bangladesh, and some of the writings of the great Tareq Masood sir, you will never find that anybody is telling that yes, it is a hoax, that not a single work of the great SM Sultan was exhibited in London with the great Pablo Picasso or the Salvador Dali or Matisse. Now everybody is claiming, rather everybody is claiming when SM Sultan was alive, they are writing down. Don't forget, this is the point, that don't forget when SM Sultan was alive, they were writing down these important happenings of SM Sultan's life. So if it was a hoax, it was very much possible by those great researchers of that period of time who were even internationally recognized. They could get back to that period of time. They could make a time travel and get back to 1950s, early 50s, and to find out whether his works were exhibited with the great Salvador Dali and the great Pablo Picasso or not. So based on that logic, or based on all the references that we have from 1970s until SM Sultan died in 1994, we find among all the evidences, among all the written and the audio evidences that we have, everything is suggesting, everything is claiming that yes, SM Sultan had 4 exhibitions in the great London back in early 50s, and some of his works were exhibited with the great Pablo Picasso and Salvador Dali. Now why after the death of SM Sultan, it has already more than 26 years has gone by. Now why this controversy that whether his works were exhibited in London with the great Dali, with the great Pablo Picasso or not? So this is how you can question the authenticity of this claim that his works were not exhibited with the great Salvador Dali and with the great Pablo Picasso. So it is one way you can refute the logic. Now coming to the second point. So the second point is very much important for all of us to remember, that even if you cut off the portion of SM Sultan's life journey in London when he was getting back from the great America to his motherland. So he took a pause because some of his friends used to stay in London. So he took a pause in London and he stayed there for a couple of months. It is for a very fact. So if we cut off that very portion, that couple of months he stayed in London, and if we cut off that portion that some of his works were not exhibited with the great Pablo Picasso and with the great Salvador Dali, still SM Sultan is SM Sultan. So you can't say that if we cut off the portion of that hoax or that reality that SM Sultan's works were exhibited with the great Pablo Picasso and Salvador Dali, still SM Sultan is SM Sultan. You can't say that now he is being less than SM Sultan. So SM Sultan's dignity or SM Sultan's height does not require his works to be exhibited with the great Pablo Picasso or the great Salvador Dali. Why? Because SM Sultan's works were and still are unparalleled compared to other artists who were contemporary or who came before or who come after him. Let me clarify my point clearly to you. See, if you have a deeper look into the art and paintings history of the world, you will never find that in any painting the farmers or the life of farmers are being the subject or the focus or the topic of the canvas or a painting. So without any doubt, it is SM Sultan who came up with the idea that yes, these are the farmers, these are the peasant society, and these are the people or these are the heroes who deserve to be honored in much more greater way than we used to do or than we are doing now. So it is his concept, like it is said that if you ate today, thank a farmer. So it is something like SM Sultan's philosophy. Since we all know that agriculture happens to be the foundation of civilization. So agriculture is the only thing that gifted this world today. Yes, there is science, there is technology, there is philosophy, there is literature, so many things which are enriching the world, but it is, let me tell you, it is unanimous that this is agriculture that is the single noblest and the most important profession in the world, and it is the cornerstone. Without any doubt, it is the cornerstone of civilization. So according to SM Sultan, if we can't show the right respect, if we can't honor the farmers or the peasants of the society, then how come we are going to create a beautiful society or we are going to make a beautiful world? So it is for the very first time in the history of art and culture, in the global history of art, that someone is coming up and painting so many pictures of farmers, where the farmers are being the focus, where the farmers are being the center of his canvas. So it is without any question or without any doubt unparalleled compared to other artists of the world. Yes, there are some places where SM Sultan is saying that yes, Vincent van Gogh is my most favorite, but it is true that in some comparison you never can even compare SM Sultan with the Vincent van Gogh. The reason is, if you see that SM Sultan's farsightedness, SM Sultan's wisdom, SM Sultan's respect towards the farmer society, this very thought is much more greater compared to the thought of one of the finest painters of all time, happens to be Sir Vincent van Gogh. So yes, it may be a hoax, it may be a reality that SM Sultan's works were exhibited with the great Pablo Picasso and the great Dali, but it is true that if it is all about who is a greater painter rather than a bigger painter, then you never can compare SM Sultan with the great Pablo Picasso and the great Salvador Dali or the Matisse. So if it is all about the greatness, if not biggerness, then we must show the utmost and the maximum respect as a painter to SM Sultan compared to even all the greatest artists of the world. So in that standard, in that measurement, SM Sultan is much more greater than Salvador Dali and Pablo Picasso and even Vincent van Gogh. But if you say that Vincent van Gogh, he is a bigger artist, the Pablo Picasso is a bigger artist, or Salvador Dali, he is a bigger artist compared to SM Sultan, I don't have any objection. They may be bigger, but they are not greater. Now the question is, Is it important to be big or is it important to be great? So greatness teaches us how to make our life ours, and the biggerness teaches us how to go far from our team members, how to go far from our very society where our root exists. So this is all about SM Sultan. He was a great human being. There is a famous saying that says to us that if you can't ensure the same amount of dignity for a farmer, the amount of dignity you just give for the best poetry has been created in the world, then you are not doing justice with the farmers, because they are one of the greatest heroes of the world, who are tirelessly working to make us feed or to provide the foods that we eat every day. So we must be grateful for or towards that peasant society, and it is something which is telling us that the way or the amount of dignity or respect we give to Shakespeare, we must give to a common farmer who is working tirelessly to produce his or our food anywhere in the world. So it is SM Sultan. Now let me finish my speech with one of the greatest and most beautiful sayings about SM Sultan, and which was spoken by Ahmad Mustafa the Great, and he was a great writer of Bangladesh. So once Ahmad Mustafa said that the greatest art of SM Sultan's life is his life itself. So the greatest art that SM Sultan has created is his life itself. So let us not judge a painter whether his works were exhibited with the great Pablo, Picasso or Salvador Dali or not. Rather, let us give the right respect that a great artist like SM Sultan without any doubt deserves from the society. And let us give a journey back throughout his life or the way he lived, like Ahmad Mustafa said, that his life itself is the greatest art has been ever created by SM Sultan himself. So thank you very much.